Foxhole, I guess, right?
Well,
or that was the Foxhole one.
That was the Foxhole one.
Hello, welcome everybody out there. This is Amateur Radio Roundtable. I'm Tom Medlin, W5KUB, and this show is about ham radio. So if you're out there listening on shortwave and you wonder what all these crazy guys are talking about, we're talking about different types of technology and radio transmissions and building things and just having a lot of fun with this hobby. So if you're out there listening on shortwave on WBCQ 7490, please send us an email to tom@w5kub.com, and we'd love to hear from you, and tell us where you are, give us a signal report, how well the shortwave station is doing. I need everybody right now to do something for me. I want you to hit the subscribe button. The subscribe button helps rank our show, and it helps YouTube to share our show with other people's videos, as you start surfing through YouTube. So please hit the subscribe button. That helps a whole lot. Hit the like button. If you like the show, just hit the like button. And also, you can hit the little bell, the little notification bell, and that'll let you know whenever we go live. Sometimes we go live during the week, and it's not the regular show time, but that will at least notify you that we're live there. Join our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is called Amateur Radio Roundtable. That's a lot of words and a lot of letters. So if you just key into Facebook, if you just put in W5KUB, you'll get the same Facebook group. We have over 12,000 hams now in our ham radio Facebook group, so we'd love to have you join that group. And it kind of follows the show and a lot of the projects and things that we're doing here. 40 meter net tonight. It was interesting. Signals are starting to pick up a little bit on 40. We had some pretty good check-ins tonight, and we had fun on the 40 meter net tonight. Let me ask if there's anybody new that's joined us tonight that didn't know about the show. They may have heard about it tonight during the net or saw one of our postings in Facebook. So in the chat room, if you're new to the show, just please tell us in the chat room that you're new. We'd like to say hello to you and welcome you to it. Katie is on vacation tonight. This show has great benefits. Katie gets a lot of more time off than Alan does. I don't get any time off, but we'll see if we can't fix that a little later. But Katie be back with us next week, and maybe she can tell us what she did on vacation there. All right, so tonight we got a bunch of things to cover. We're going to talk about zero pressure balloon. That's different than the super pressure balloons that we've been sending around the world. And the recovery of the zero pressure balloon. We knew it was going to stay up 24 hours. It went down near Charleston. Charleston? Yeah. That's where it went down, I think. I don't know. We'll find out in a minute. We got Martin with us tonight, and we want to welcome him back, and we're going to try to convince him to be on a show a little bit more often. We may have to up his pay just a little bit to get him back on here more regularly. And let's see what else. Alan's going to talk to you. Hey, I didn't know about this, but there's a new rule that's come out about RF exposure, and I think every ham now, my understanding, and I just learned this a few minutes ago, every ham is going to have to submit this I guess, to the FCC, RF exposure. So we're going to learn tonight what that means and what we have to do there. Let's jump just around and say hello to everybody in the room. I see Martin up first. Hey, Martin, how you doing?
Oh, doing just fine. Everything is good in Starkville. Parts problems are just about solved, but still have shortage of employees all over Starkville, all over the state. But we're working on that, but doing fine.
All right. So you got a shortage of employees?
Oh, it's a major problem. Not just with us, but
Wow.
all over the town, all over the state.
Well, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm retired. I'm gonna have to come down here and work a little for you. You know.
Come on.
Could you give me a job? Maybe I could work maybe 1 week a month.
We got plenty of work.
All right. All right. Well, we'll negotiate the salary a little later there. Oh, let's see. Who else we got? We got Alan. Alan, man, you got a nice looking shirt and background there, Alan. What's going on tonight?
Not too much. Good to see you. Sorry I missed you last week, but was some personal business to take care of, and got another version of my W28W shirt. Got the YouTube channel on the back of it there.
Cool, man.
So, anyway, I just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements. For 2 weeks ago, we talked about operating split on HF.
Uh-huh.
And if you missed that, you can obviously go back to the recording here. But the most recent video that I put on my channel just summarizes that again. So if you want to just go right to that, you can go grab that as well. And I'll post a link to that over in the chat. But tonight, as you said, we're going to chat about the changes that were made or being made to the RF exposure rules as far as the FCC is concerned. You don't have to submit anything to worry about that, but there are some new rules in terms of who's got to do the evaluation, and I'll give you some tips on how to do it. So that's what we got tonight.
I'm anxious to hear what I got to do, man. All right, Glenn Popeil, where's Glenn?
Right here.
There you are. Now, hey, are you still a bum, or you got a job now?
No, I got a real job.
Did you work today?
I've been working all week. I started Monday. I am now officially a network engineer, IT support engineer for Amazon here at their fulfillment centers here in Memphis area.
All right. Is that going to make my packages get here any quicker?
Yeah, if I see them on the line, I'll pull them out and bring them home.
Having an inside connection like that ought to help me, man. Yeah.
Well, and it goes right to what Martin was saying about the shortage of people. My previous company didn't win the contract for me to continue on that job, so I was unemployed a whopping 10 days, and in those 10 days, a bidding war erupted.
Oh, yeah.
And it was literally who had the biggest wheelbarrow of money for me to go work for. I mean, there just is no people willing to work out there right now in any field.
Wow.
Got a contractor up here says he's having trouble getting people because as soon as he gets somebody to come, they get a stimulus check and they go leave.
Yeah, that might be it too.
Yeah. So, like I say, I just started on Monday, so I'm still learning the ropes. It is truly amazing. About half the facility is robotics, and it's really neat.
Yeah, I took a tour of one of the Amazon fulfillment centers here in New Jersey a couple of years ago. It is amazing, really amazing. Talking about logistics on steroids.
Yes, very much so.
Whereabouts is it in Memphis, Glenn?
Well, they've got four. One in Olive Branch, one in Horn Lake, and I can't remember where the third one is, but I'm at their newest. It's called MEM 4, and it's up in the Raleigh-Fraser area in North Memphis.
All right.
All right. Well, look, hey guys, let's and we've got let's just say hi to James. James Lee. Hello, James. How you doing?
Hey there, Tom. Everybody, how you doing?
Doing good, man. How's things down in Florida? You doing okay down here?
We are wet and underwater. We have had a wet weather pattern this year, but we're starting to dry out. And Katie may swing by here tomorrow on her way down to the rocket launch.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, get that on video so we can surprise her on the show next week.
Okay.
Try to get it on hidden camera for me there. Okay. All right. Yeah, I've talked to several people from Florida on the net today, and they said, "Yep, it's rainy down that way." You think they'll launch if the weather's bad?
The weather's actually supposed to be really nice on Thursday, but through tomorrow it's supposed to be still stay wet. We've had a kind of a stalled front going up and down the state, and it has been really wet here. We've got standing water all over the place here in the yard right now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of standing water, you and our next person I'm gonna say hi to was in some standing water here this week. Let's go over to Ryland, or James Ryland, but we'll call him Ryland because we got two James on here. How you doing, Ryland? You doing good tonight?
Doing very well. Extremely excited to be here. Yeah, I had a foray through a little bit of swampland and got the pictures of the muddy boots to.
Yeah, you know what? We'll talk about those in a few minutes. And but this is your boots right here, man. You know, they look a little muddy, man. You know, look like you kind of sunk down in the mud there a little bit.
Oh yeah, I sunk big time in that stuff. But the swamp tried to eat the boots, but I got the boots back. So.
All right, very good. All right, well, look, let's just do this. Let me jump into. We're not going to get deep into balloons tonight, but since our first segment is going to be about the location and the recovery of our balloon, I just want to give a little recap of some of the things we've done the last year and a half with our balloons. We've really learned a lot about them. We've tried a lot of different things, but our very first balloon was launched back in April of 2019, and that was W5KUB1, and I think we're up to 27 now. But that was one, and that was an amazing balloon. It was actually just a small little silver party balloon, and it went 14,000 miles in 14 days, and as it crossed Japan, it hit a storm, and we watched it go down. We watched the altimeter just like we were in an airplane, and that altimeter was going down, 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 and so we saw it crash there. So that was one of our first ones. Now, we've had some great successes after that. We're doing a lot of experimental stuff with some balloons. This show is going to take the Pico balloon to a higher standard. Right now, even with a high dollar balloon, the highest you can fly with these Pico balloons is about 43,000 feet. That's the altitude, the max, based on the weight and the capacity of that balloon. We've got some beta stuff working on right now. We're going to try to fly in about a month. We're going to try to push that limit, and we're going to fly at 55,000 and hope to circumnavigate the Earth. And then guess what? We're going to even push that to the limit. I'm going to take that material and do some fancy things to it, and we're going to try to fly at 65 to 70,000 and go around the world. But that's coming up. So some of the fun things happened. That was our first balloon right there. And we've, somebody asked us, how do you steer it? People said, well, how do you steer it? And we, just as a joke on Facebook, we said we had some specially trained ants. And it took 1 year to train these ants, and they're the ones that steer the balloon. Well, everybody on Facebook kind of caught on to that, and they talked about the ants all the time, just like they're real people. And, we gave them certificates when they crossed the international date line and so forth. And they also went down. A number of times we had crashes. Here are the ants right here. This is a recent recent picture here. But these ants went down in a Bermuda Triangle this past month, and they were, of course, rescued. You can see there. We lost one balloon in China, in the desert there in China, and we were wondering how we're going to get these guys out of China. But these Tibetan monks rescued the crew, and they got back safely. Now, last year we launched a simple balloon, and it made it all the way, but it crashed in Poland. And here's a Polish ham club that we talked to. They went out and recovered it. They're actually holding the tracker right there. right in the middle of COVID, and this was going to be the first Pico balloon that stopped for refueling and went around the world. So we went down in Poland. They were going to gas it back up and launch it, and it was going to continue to the U.S. So we were going to say we're the first ones that stopped for refueling in Europe and continued. So, and here's a picture here. We had one, I don't know, 6 months ago. It went down in the Norwegian Sea. And you can see some of the sugar cubes floating there that we have for the ants to keep them happy. But this picture was taken by one of the recovery planes as it flew past them. And this was up near Norway. And then if you go on down, we lost one, I don't know, 7, 8 months ago in the South China Sea, just somewhere near the Philippines. And the ants didn't fare too well there. It went down in the ocean there. So that's kind of what's been going on there with us. We're trying to push the limit on balloon material, and here is a picture. Here's a picture of the balloon that we flew to Charleston. And this is the end of it. Let me show you how big this thing got. Now, typically the balloons that we've been flying, and the only ones we can get that will work for this, are only about 2 feet in diameter and maybe 6 feet long. You can see this one's a little bit larger. It filled up a 2-car garage. It got approximately 8 foot tall, and it's about 17 feet long. And what we did, you know the pressures at various altitudes, and you need to make the balloon be able to hold that pressure at the altitude. So we were trying to see if this balloon would fly at 60,000 feet. Well, Martin, you probably have seen this and know what this is. It's you measure the differential pressure based on water, inches of water, and so we had this hooked up to the balloon there, and we kept pumping air into it, and we were never gaining any more pressure, and we couldn't figure out why. But what was happening was the balloon material kept stretching, and as the balloon material kept stretching, the pressure didn't ever get any higher. And that told us that balloon was not going to fly as a super pressure balloon. It would just keep going up, 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 and it would stretch, and it would eventually just tear open. So we decided to fly this balloon as a zero pressure balloon. And what zero pressure means is that it's not super pressure. You don't have a lot of pressure you're pushing on the sides. We actually had a 3/4 inch pipe at the bottom of that balloon as a vent. And when the balloon was launched, it was pretty much empty. Of course, as it goes up, it expands, it fills the balloon up. But once that balloon gets filled up, it doesn't expand the material anymore and pop it. It goes out the vent at the bottom. And a zero pressure balloon lasts about 24 hours, 1 day, 1 night. It went down the next day. We did a night launch and went down the next day. And we've got the people here that's going to talk about the recovery of it. Now, we did a night launch. Typically, all of our balloons are solar powered, so we get the data on solar. But we did a night launch just so we could get that balloon up in the air without the sun heating it. And we put some special energy ultra lithium batteries on there, and those batteries are guaranteed to work down to minus 40 Celsius. And I didn't think much about it. We've tried lithium batteries before, and when we hit minus 20 degrees, lithium batteries turn off. They won't charge, and they won't put out any current at all. But these were supposed to do minus 40 C. We put them on there, launched this thing, and we were getting good data that night as it went up. But when we hit 30,000 feet, we hit minus 40, and that was exactly the temperature that the battery specs said it would work, and that battery shut down. So after we hit 30,000 feet, we don't know if it hit 50, 60, 70,000 feet. We don't know. We just know that the next morning it came down, and the battery actually helped the next morning for you guys to find it there. So I want to show you a quick video real quick of the launch of this zero pressure. It was quite a large balloon, so I'm gonna put it on here and let you see what it looked like. We actually launched at nighttime. The camera is amazing. The camera looks like it was daylight. It had such a low lux. It was light, but you'll see. I'm asking for a flashlight. Somebody please hold a flashlight so I can see what I'm doing. Here's a quick video of our launch. And typically we use hydrogen. Hydrogen will give you about, I don't know, 3% higher altitude, but this balloon was so big, we ran out of hydrogen fast, and then we emptied a tank of helium in it. So here's the launch. Well, this is a homemade balloon made out of plastic like you'd buy at Lowe's or somewhere, and the seam is actually taped with some special tape to make it into a balloon.
I thought you told me it was duct tape. They use duct tape to save everything.
You know, duct tape might work, but this tape is really good on poly. It really binds that poly. So in just a minute, you're going to see this lift off. Again, it's starting to get dark there.
The ducks might eat the ants, so
What was that?
So the ducks might eat the ants. You gotta watch it with the ducks.
Yeah.
That's true. We got to be careful there. All right, let's see. I'm going to try to look at the chat room too. Let's see. That is Bill Brown. So we'll get this off in the air in just a moment there. And hello, Bill Brown. Welcome.
Tom, a question in the chat room. What's the result if you mix the hydrogen and helium together?
Well, I don't know. You know, one gas is a little bit better lifter than the other, but I have no idea.
Helium's inert, so there's not going to be
Hey,
any
Bill.
chemical
So we were talking about past things, Bill, that we've done this year, and we're getting into the rescue of the balloon here, and I just wanted to show the launch here. So again, it's amazing that the camera makes this look like daylight here. It was dark, and you're going to see. I'm asking for a flashlight because I can barely see what I'm doing.
Well, you need to wear night vision goggles.
Just about. And we knew that we knew this was going to be a short-lived flight, so we didn't do a lot of preparation on it. The batteries are taped in with some tape, and it looks pretty crude right there. But we knew it was going to work for the first day. I'm actually, Bill, connecting the batteries right there. The battery switch was 2 pieces of wire on this one, and I'm turning that switch on right now. You can see the flashlight. We've got a flashlight on here. It was dark out there, let me tell you.
There's a wire there.
Okay. Well,
There's one here.
oh, okay.
One there.
Any danger of static?
Which one's top?
There is a
This is top
danger
right here.
sometimes.
Yep. That's the top one?
This is the top. It's got the string on it.
Okay.
Tom, what's the name of that poly tape
I think we got
that you use?
I don't know. It's a special poly tape it's made for poly, polyethylene. So, and it really binds good. In fact, we laid 2 sheets of that polyethylene side by side and put that on, and you cannot pull it apart. It's actually stronger. It's stronger than the material itself right there. I'm gonna unhook this.
Did you get the tape from the balloon guys?
No, actually, I ordered that on the internet. I saw it advertised as made specially for polyethylene. So that's I ordered it, and I sent them some to test, and they tested it down here in their lab, and they said, "Man, this is some good tape right here." So we're tying the payload now on the balloon. That's the top half of the antenna. I'm trying not to step on it. We got the flashlight going. So we're just about ready to turn this thing loose.
I want to know what kind of camera you're using to be able to see in the dark like that.
That's just a Samsung 11 cell phone.
Wow.
I mean, they really got good low light, you know. I hear your parakeet back there. He's talking to me
sorry.
again. Yeah. Now Ed's trying to do some fancy maneuvers there. I don't know what Ed's doing. He seems to be trying to kind of get my attention with it. I don't know. He's holding the light over here. It's just amazing how much light that we have in the camera. He's holding a flashlight right now. All right, I think we're ready to launch. So here we go.
Okay.
And this is just about the end of the video. This balloon is probably about 17 feet long. It has a circumference of 24 feet around it. Has a diameter of about close to 8 feet actually, because it is stretched some. All right, here we go. Here goes the launch. It was a pretty launch actually, and the wind was blowing pretty good that day. Again, you notice that the balloon looks like it doesn't have much gas in it, but there we go. And it lifts the tracker out of my hand, and it is gone.
That's pretty scary winds, actually.
Yeah,
That big of
I
an
was
envelope.
going out there. I was a little afraid that this was so big and that
It acts like a sail.
we had so much wind. I was a little afraid, but you know, it turned out pretty good. All of our launches have turned out pretty good, and we've learned on these to. Let's see. Let me get this off here.
What time of the night was that? Just after sunset?
This was about 7:45 p.m.
Okay. So you had a little bit
We had a little bit of light, but we were using the flashlight here. So we have learned, Bill, the best way, especially with this 20-meter antenna, you know, is to take the balloon, you know, downwind. You hold the tracker upwind, take the balloon downwind, and when you turn loose of that balloon, you don't have anything holding it back now to make it flop around toward the ground. It'll just start rising, and by the time it gets over the tracker, it's up in the air, and it just yanks it right up. All right,
if you have very little wind, sometimes though you'll have to run towards it because it could yank it towards it. So
yeah,
but that we do that with the big high altitude balloons, the big weather balloons. In like a 20-knot wind, we get everybody lined up downwind, and it just launches beautifully.
Yeah.
If we have several people holding payloads.
So let's get into. We knew this was this balloon would not fly as a super pressure balloon. It would not go around the world. It would have kept going straight up. It would have stretched and come apart. So my friend Ed, who had the gas there, says, let's launch this thing anyway. You know, we didn't want to waste a good balloon, so we decided we'll do a zero pressure balloon. A zero pressure balloon, as I mentioned, is good for about 24 hours, one day, one night, and that's it. So we launched it, and let's bring in some recovery team here, and let's talk a little about it. We got James Lee and we got James Ryland with us. James is from James. I'll call James Lee James. James is from Florida. He was just traveling through the area when it went down. And we've got James Ryland, and he lives in South Carolina, near there. Let's pick up James first. WX4 TV. And James, I want to hear your experience. You saw it go. You heard it went down, and you said you wanted to go look for it. And I said,
Yeah,
don't,
Tom.
I said, don't waste your time. You know.
I was on my way home from North Carolina, headed back to Florida.
Yeah.
And I saw where you posted that the balloon had gone down, and I realized that it was about a 20 or 30 minute side trip. Turned into several hours trying to find the balloon, but I was like, you know what, it went down. I can probably help go look for that. And it was a long shot because there was a lot of swampland around it. But got down there, got into where you had given the information on where it was last heard, the direction of travel and the speed and the rate of descent. And then I kind of looked at that and figured out where it might be. And even though I didn't have a way to decode the packets, I went down there and started listening on the APRS frequency to see if I could find or hear it. And I did hear it. It was scratchy. I had to go up over a bridge that was about 60 feet tall, and the next packet was quite loud on top of the bridge. And then the one after that down on the ground was low again. But I got into where it was, drove down a long dirt road, went down to the end, found a neighbor down there, and he seemed interested. We got into his gator and drove around and went out on a neighbor's dock, and I looked up to the north, and there it was. It was hanging in a tree about maybe a quarter mile away. And then we went around and probably made our way to within about 25 yards of it and took some pictures of it.
Yeah, I don't have the picture where you drove really near it. And the neat thing about the APRS is you can put the balloons in there and you can put your call in there, and I could see you driving almost in circles around it, man. It was just so cool that you were so close. And typically our APRS latitude and longitude, Bill will tell you it's probably within a box a couple square miles, but we were running true APRS here, so it was very, very accurate. So you found it. I don't have the video. You had a very short, about a 3 or 4 second video. I didn't pull it up here, but tell us a story about you had an interesting local person that even helped you look. Didn't he drive you around?
Yeah, this guy drove me around. And Tom, if you want to let me share screen, I can.
Okay,
I can try and
right
find
ahead.
it. I can find it real quick. Let me look up your W5KUB, and I can find where I posted. Anyway, I found this guy. He was retired and interested. He was kind of incredulous that there was a high altitude balloon that had come down near his property. But then he heard one of the packets come over the radio, and he was intrigued by it. So we got in his gator and we drove around, and just kind of wondering where could this thing be. I thought it was actually a little bit further to the south from his property, but it was actually a little to the north of his property. And we drove around, went over to his next door neighbors, and like I said, we went out on the dock. And I thought, if it's out here in the water, or if it's in the trees next to the water, maybe we can see it if we're out here on the river or the stream or whatever that thing was.
Well, here's a picture of it on our monthly our monthly magazine here.
We go.
If you look right under, it's hard to tell where the balloon is, but it's somewhere under the word right about where it says breaking news. I think the balloon is hanging. Oh yeah, right below breaking there. And there's a picture of James there with rescued the ants there.
Yep, that was it. We found it, and then we drove around, and we actually walked through the woods for a while, a couple hundred yards, to try to get closer to it. I didn't get as close as Ryland did because there was a lot of water between me and there. And then I figured out from the satellite picture how we could get to it. And the neighbor, and actually a couple of the neighbors were like, no, you don't want to do that. The property you're going to have to walk through to get to it. And that was the way I was going to go. It wasn't owned by somebody who would want to have people walking through. So we did not go through his property and try to find it.
Yeah, here's let's see if I can bring this up. Here's the APRS map that shows you. Unfortunately, it doesn't show the balloon because it's been more than 7 days, I guess. But you can see the terrain we're looking at here. Let's see. Yeah, this is water out here. In fact, I'm a little disoriented here. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I'm looking for it here on my stuff. I'll find it and I'll share the screen here in just a second. it was definitely an interesting time of looking for this balloon. It was fun to do.
So you actually came up on it. You found it. You could see it across the water there. You couldn't quite get to it. And it was assumed it was on someone else's property, and the person, the local taking you around, didn't suggest that you go over there. He kind of felt that it might be best to stay away. Is that kind of what?
Yeah,
impression
the
you got?
route that I had thought that I would go through to get to it was not going to be a good route to go, according to the neighbor. So I didn't go that route. It probably could have worked. I don't know. The guy who I was with said that he was not. The guy was not a fan of visitors.
Visitor, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm trying myself to.
I've got a picture of some of the tracks I can share on my screen.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, you can share, Bill, if you got it here. Here's I've got a picture here. Okay, Bill's got the tracks. There we go. So the balloon is actually the green line, I think. Yeah, the balloon is the green line there. I guess James WX4 TV is the purple. No, the violet. Well, both of them are kind of red. I'll call it red. And Rylan, was that other track you? I don't know.
That's a good question, because I was using APRS Droid on my Android phone. And I also had stopped by the house to get my little Yaesu VX8DR, and I got a little antenna to roll up in the window and try to get the physical packets from the tracker itself.
Well, there's this. Yeah, and we'll get your details in just a second. This is the picture that James took. If you look there in the center top, you'll see it looks like a ghost up there. That was the actual balloon, but he had quite a bit of. The ground wasn't too good to walk on right there for sure. And I think James or Roland, you took this picture. This picture here is, you can see, let's see, you can see the balloon in the top. Well, if I can get it down here a little bit, let's see. Well, can't do it.
It's way up that tree. That's zoomed
it's
in.
way
That
up the
tree's
tree. You can
fantastic.
see it. You can see it right there in the top of the tree. That looks like a pretty tall tree there. And let's see. And then I think I've got some tracks and things on here that might be interesting to show.
Yeah, I have another track that
Okay.
shows Ryland's
right.
path too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put it up.
Okay. And you can see both James WX4 TV and KI4SIYs all running around there chasing for it, looking for it. And so it was, and plus we were hearing the whisper across the country as well.
Yeah, so you got both tracks. The green track is the balloon,
Yeah.
and then the other two tracks are James and Roland. All right, so okay, well James, you were the first on site there to actually find it. I thought that was kind of cool that you were just passing through and you said you wanted to go look for it, man.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And actually, Tom, I've got my pictures up where I can share them here. Let me hit my share screen, I've got that, and I've got the video here as well. I guess I can only do one at a time, so I got to hit shift to do that. Okay, and share sound as well. All right, so let me go here to the pictures first. This is the first picture here that we took. We were at the neighbor's next door neighbor's yard, and you can see my mouse there. That is the balloon when we first saw it, and then that's a zoomed in picture that I did of it, and that's the one that I sent to you, and you thought, well, yeah, that is it, but we were still a quarter mile away from there, and as you can see here, I was actually off the screen. I was off the screen down here somewhere. The balloon was up in here. And then here's another picture where it's that's actually it up in there.
Yeah,
And
you have a lot of water through.
Yeah, so you can see there that that's a zoomed in picture of it. And
Well, and I can understand you didn't have your boots on. Plus, there's alligators and snakes and everything else out there, right?
Yeah, there were some alligators. I was told. I didn't see any.
Yeah.
But let me play the video here real quick, because this actually shows where I was hearing real loud, hearing the.
You may have to share sound too. If
I did share the sound, but let me see if I may need to do it. Yeah, I'm sharing sound. I think what I need to first do is mute you on YouTube here. Let me do that real quick. I'm just going to close you out of YouTube. It's not sharing, is it?
we're not hearing. I'm not hearing.
Well, anyway, well, you can see where it is there across that water.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. Hey, I really appreciate you going out there and making the effort to find it. Let's bring Rylan in here, and Rylan, let's talk a little about your experience real quick. You were the other half person that found it there, man. What do you think? You were called. Now, do you live near there?
I do. I live. There's an island right next to it called James Island. You've got Folly Island, which Folly Beach. You've got James Island, and you've got Johns Island, Wadmalaw, and so the entire coastal section here around here is nothing but barrier islands, stuff like that. So I live right nearby, and I was at work and at the office, and all of a sudden I get this email on my cell phone. And I was totally unaware. I wasn't following a launch or anything like that. And all of a sudden, I get this email. I tell a couple of coworkers in the office, the guys were like, "That's really cool." And I was like, "I think I'm going to take a half day and go find this thing." So,
Yeah.
I wound up leaving the office and all that stuff, and didn't have the handheld with the APRS on it in the truck. So I had to come by my house, go get it, and then go out there. And then the search began.
All right. Well, now you actually went over on the property that the other guys were kind of saying stay away from, and you got a completely different story. You met a really nice guy there, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it was great. I went over there to the island, and I found the general area, and it's really funny because the first time I think that James, I think of the Export TV, I think he went to the south of it, to where he would have had to walk around to go through some pretty sketchy property. And I think that's the neighbor they were probably talking about. The first time I went through there, I did not hear a single packet from the tracker or anything like that. I didn't see, the W5 KUB-11 there on my handy talkie. So I did some riding around the island. I was like, well, maybe this thing's gone south, and went south and went down the road towards Wadmalaw Island, which is the next island over. and was thinking, well, if I'm not getting a beacon, this thing could have gone in the water already, or it's already been retrieved and turned off, because I knew James was in the area, and had sent him a message over my APRS droid, but evidently it won't allow messaging over APRS between, I guess, Android and Apple. So Android versus Apple. But then came back, and the second time I went through, I'd gone down that gravel road before and hadn't gotten any ping whatsoever. Came back by, and it was when I was on a road right across the creek from it. I saw the display light up, and that's when I saw the call sign. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, I've done enough riding around now. I think I found it, but I couldn't see it from where I was. So I took the chance and went back down the gravel road, and to the left between myself and where James was and where they had been riding around the gator, there was property where there was only a tent and maybe some chairs and stuff like that. And there was no house on the property, but it was clearly somebody living on the property in a tent. And James was right. The guy probably didn't take into account somebody walking across his property. But the second time I went through there, I went all the way down the gravel road to a very nice house at the end that had a property beside it for sale. And I showed up, and there was a young guy there by the name of Casey Blanchard. And I got out of the truck, and there was a large Rottweiler that came running up to me. So I just kind of stood there and was like, "Hey, yeah, I'm happy to see you." You never know until you meet the dog how it's going to react or anything like that. So luckily the dog was friendly. But Casey got off the phone. He was on the phone with somebody, and I told him who I was and what I was there for, and his reaction was, "Cool, let's go find it." So we traipsed across there, and we went out through some pretty thick vegetation. And about halfway there was a really good marshy section that Casey had no problem getting over. He had some boards and stuff like that. He could walk over, and I'm significantly heavier than that guy. So every board I stepped on started to sink in. And eventually, yeah, like the picture shows, the swamp started, or the marsh started to try to eat my boots. So finally made it across that, and I had actually at that point taken my boots off and put the socks inside, walking barefoot through there, which is probably not the smartest thing, but we had come this far, so we were not going to turn back. And we finally walked out into a little miniature clearing there on the end of that little peninsula, and he was the first one to spot it. I started looking up, but I was looking up the wrong way, and he looked up the tree, found it, and I looked up at the same time, and I was like, "That's it." And I was like, I don't know how we're going to retrieve that. So, I mean, and that tree, I had to zoom in to take that picture.
Yeah.
It is probably between 60, that tree's probably about 80 feet tall, and that balloon's probably 60 to 65, maybe 70 feet up in that tree.
Well, wow. So
it's a very tall pine, and it's, he said he had somebody that had a tree crew that might be able to shimmy up the tree and go get it. But yeah, I don't know if the guy would want payment for that or anything like that. So I don't know. I texted the guy and haven't heard back. So I don't know if we're going to get this.
So did you say you actually took your shoes off and you were wading through that barefooted? Oh man, you're a trooper. Let me tell you, man.
Because my right boot kind of augured in, and I was going up towards the shin, and I was like, okay, so I couldn't pull out. And so I just reached over with my hand, pulled the boot all the way out of the mud, and set it back down. And
so you were sinking down to your knees almost in mud out there, man. Oh, wow.
Let me tell you something. Carhartt and Tony Llama's. I'm wearing Tony Llama cowboy boots and Carhartt pants, and I thought the pants were destroyed. I mean, they had marsh caked up all the way up, near the knee and on the thigh and all that stuff.
Yeah.
One wash. All of that came out like brand new pants.
Man, I tell you, well, hey, thank you so much for your effort and getting out there and finding that. It's still in the tree. If somebody wants to go out there and get it down, we're gonna leave it in the tree.
Well, he theorized that it was going to be a hurricane that would get it.
Yeah, it's probably tangled pretty well in that tree. It's not gonna come down for a while, so you might take a rifle out there and shoot the tracker down. We used to go shoot mistletoe down, from tall trees in the forest with a rifle. But
Oh
you'd
yeah.
have to hit the little fishing line to cut the tracker loose for it to come down.
You might have better results having somebody catch on the side I was on and where James was actually firing that shot to be able to find
Yeah. Oh man.
to see where he could shoot it from, because from underneath I couldn't tell.
Well, hey, thank you so much, man, for all your effort and going out there. They asked in the chat room, was this balloon launch a success? Well, it really was. We didn't have any expectations. We knew this balloon was not flyable for the way we wanted to fly it. We wanted to just fly it anyway. We knew it was zero pressure. It's going to come down the next day, and it did come down the next day. The only thing we don't know is what kind of altitude we actually achieved, because our batteries quit working at minus 40. So we don't know if we went up to 50, 60, 70, 80. We have no idea. Now, that balloon size probably was capable of making it, in the 70,000s easy, but we lost contact with it after 30,000 feet. And we didn't see it again until the next morning when it came down there over there near you. But it was it was kind of a dry, not so much fun launch. But what turned the whole thing into a lot of fun was that you and James were able to go out there and find it, and we added a story to it now. And that's what made it probably more success. So hey, thank you for coming on, Rylan, and also James. Thank you, man. Any last comment, James?
You're welcome, Tom. I was just asking Faith Anna with the muted. You remember Faith Anna went to South Africa a couple years ago, and they did a high altitude launch that was actually coordinated with their version of the FAA, because it was a very heavy balloon. And they used Energizer lithium batteries, and they insulated them somehow in their payload, and it got high enough that the GPS was actually turned off. That apparently above a certain height, GPSs turn off. I don't know what height that is.
Yeah, some GPSs turn off at different altitudes. It depends on the GPS. If you have the wrong one, it'll stop at 60,000 feet. Some of them stop working at 40,000 feet. The U-blocks, for example, you have to send it to command to work for airborne mode. If you don't do that, it'll stop.
Yeah. So James, we were
today that they forgot to put the command in, and it stopped working at 40,000 feet.
So James, we did use the Energizer Ultimate lithium batteries, and the specs say that they will work down to minus 40. And man, I was hoping it might work a little better, but I think the temperature got them. If we'd had a couple more batteries in series, they might have been putting out a little bit. We could have taken it further, but man, at those temperatures, I think it just shut down.
Now, Ryland, I found Ryland because I looked on the APRS map, and I looked all over the region for somebody who had a mobile APRS vehicle, and there was KI4SIW. And I looked him up on QRZ.com and found that he had an email address and emailed him. So that's how Ryland got into the chase. But I just looked all around, and the first vehicle I found, I said, that's one of the people we need chasing.
Yeah, well, he was the right person. That's for sure. Okay,
Hey,
guys,
I had a blast.
we need to move on here. We've got Alan segment, and I want to get Martin in here. We always have a good time when Martin is in here. And thanks, James and James, for coming on, man. We really enjoyed it, and stick around if you want to for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I'll probably stick around. The kids have got to get to bed. 3 of them are in college now, so I'll mute it and probably stick around for the rest of the show.
That's fine. That's fine. And Alan?
I've got a 4 a.m. workout in the morning.
4 a.m. Well, you better go to bed right now.
That's exactly what my dad would tell me right now.
Yeah, you better go right now.
Walking through the swamp in bare feet.
So listen, Alan.
Navy SEAL material right there.
Look, Alan, let's do this, Alan. Let's put the RF exposure, as much as I want to know about this, let's put the RF exposure off till a little bit later in the show. If we don't have time to talk about it this time, we'll finish it up next time. But I want to get Martin in here. It's just great to have Martin back with us, and I don't know where we're going to go with Martin, but let's all just ask Martin. Let's talk ham radio.
Well, you were talking about earlier. Somebody was asking you what you were using the double extended ZEP for 40 on net tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that person hopefully is watching the show tonight. He learned about it from the net. I think he gave me a 60 over S9 signal report in Atlanta tonight. He said nobody else was that loud. And he said, I kind of suspect it was the extended double ZEP you're talking about. And he said, because of that, I've started reading about it and studying it. He says, that sounds like a pretty good antenna. And I said, well, tonight we're going to have Martin Jew on here. He is the guy that put me on this antenna. He's got one, and he put me on it. And we're going to talk about the double ZEP. Before we get into that, Martin, let's everybody just take a standby just for 1 minute here. We'll be right back, everybody. The great outdoors are calling. Get outside and under the stars with one of ICOM's ultimate SDR transceivers. The IC705 is a perfect transceiver for hams who enjoy both the great indoors and the outdoors. It's a perfect QRP companion. The base station has features and functionality at the tip of your fingers and a portable package. And it covers HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. And guess what? It weighs in at just under 2 pounds. It has a 4.3-inch touchscreen, and it's got a live band scope and waterfall. It'll run 5 watts with a BP272, or 10 watts on 13.8 volts DC. It runs all modes, including D-Star. The speaker microphone comes standard. The perfect accessory for the 705 is the LC192 backpack. It has a special compartment for your IC705 and room for all your accessories. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver radio brings direct sampling to the UHF VHF weak signal world.
James, are you
This
still
all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features that are just sure to keep you busy. It has a 4.3-inch color touchscreen and spectrum scope and waterfall.
South Africa that
It has smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels, and it's full duplex operation in satellite mode. Heard it, worked it, and logged it with ICOM 7300. It's a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This innovative HF transistor digitizes the RF before various receiver stages to reduce the generated inherent noise of different IF stages.
It was a big
The IC7300 is the radio that changed the way of entry-level HF. Visit www.icomamerica/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
A lake that was a couple hours drive from there. I don't remember what it was. The main thing I remember from that is that we were there in August, which is their winter. And
LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. From QRP to QRO, fixed stations, portable and remote, an LDG tuner will match your radio to your antenna using our lightning-fast, proprietary tuning algorithms. LDG is a family-owned and operated company dedicated to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. All LDG products carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable. Support is only a phone call or email away. We're always here to help you. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
All right, so we had a little audio issues there. I think during the ICOM thing, we also had some audio going out from you guys, but that's okay. This is an amateur operation. Anyway, okay, hey guys, we're back, and let's get back to Martin, where we were talking with Martin a minute ago. So Martin, I want to talk a minute about the double ZEP, the extended double ZEP. Now, we got another guy on here that in the chat room just said that tonight when I switched between the Delta Loop and the double extended ZEP, it didn't make much difference. So, but it's definitely a good antenna. What do you think about the extended double ZEP?
Well, it's a very very simple antenna. It just takes wire and gives you about 3 dB gain over a dipole. And this is back in a little bit after 1960 when I had upgraded from novice and was on 20-meter phone. Back then, phone was AM, and I was using a old Heathkit DX40 and control carrier. But I built a double extended ZEP antenna using wire out of an old electrodynamic speaker. Just unwound the wire from it, which was soft copper drawn wire, and built a 20-meter extended double ZEP and fed it with TV twin lead through a little homemade tuner, and it was unbelievable. I could make contacts all over the world using AM control carrier, but that was back in the day when the propagation was better than it is now.
We had a great sunspot cycle thing going back then in the 60s.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, and your wire would stretch. You were using a little bitty teeny weeny wire than that speaker magnet. And so, but did you tune that antenna? Did you have a tuner on that antenna, or did you just make it resonant?
No, it was a tuner. It was a little homemade tuner. Held together with epoxy.
So if it's stretched, that's no big deal. What people need to understand is if the wire stretched a little bit, you're going to use a tuner anyway. So
the problem is it breaks every few weeks. It would break, and we have to go back out there and put it back up.
Well, that's because a bird probably landed on it, sitting on it, and oh man. Well, but I Martin, on mine, my lot is just a little over 150 feet wide, and I've got it from one side to the other. The end out there, I just moved it to a new tree because I had to take down 2 trees, but I've got the end at probably about 80 feet, but I'm having to let about 15 feet hang, on the end down there. So I've got a flat top, except one end I got 15 feet hanging down there.
Well, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works all right. Now, will that antenna tune pretty good for like 80 and 160?
I think you can tune it. You can tune it up, and you can radiate. It won't work like it was a extended double ZEP. The loads all break up.
Yeah,
but it'll be a good all band antenna.
Tom, Martin, there's a question in the chat about the antenna. So asking if Arn is asking if the double extended ZEP with window line feed has an advantage of operating. Let me back up here. Let me see where his question is. Here it is. What is the best? A doublet with a window line feed or the off-center fed dipole with coax for the 40 and 80 meter bands?
For a specific band?
Well, the question is, it looks like it's centered on 40 and 80. So if you had the choice, if you're running 40 and 80, would you run a double extended ZEP with window line feed, or would you run an OCF with coax fed?
Well, double extended ZEP will give you some gain. It's a much cheaper, easier to put up antenna, but you have to have a tuner. A off-center fed, it's that's a good way to go. You just lose a little bit of gain, and you have to have more stuff for it to work. You need to transform the impedance of it, and need some kind of balance if you're going to feed it with coax. I always favor a doublet type of an antenna with ladder line because of the how easy it is to put up and how cheap it is. Simple. Plus, you can use it for other bands too.
Yeah, that's what I like about it too. That's what I run here. Just a 450 ohm line here into the shack with a good wide range tuner, and I can tune this thing up from 80 to 10.
Yeah, yeah. Was that Arnie in Columbus, Mississippi?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Arnie.
Yeah, I think we got his question answered there. Like you said, the double ZEP's going to have about 3 dB gain over a dipole, and I guess an end-fed is an end-fed's just a half-wave antenna, or well, not an end-fed, a off-center fed. Again, it's going to be a half-wave.
Yeah. Well, generally, when you off-center feed it, you find a point where the impedance is about the same on all the bands, and then you have to transform it down to 50 ohms. And then use a balun to keep the current off the outside of the coax.
Well, I got a friend that's running. He's running end-fed, with the balun. Well, the end-fed takes what? Is it a 9-to-1? I think it's a 9-to-1 balun on a half-wave end-fed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's more of a transformer than a balun.
I think the non-half-wave end-fed is something like a 27-to-1, but I think you run a 9-to-1 balun on there, and he's got a tuner. He also got a remote tuner out there on it. I'm just wondering, is there anything to gain? I mean, the end-fed half-wave, he says it works on all the bands okay without the tuner, but he's got the tuner on there. Is there any reason to even have that balun on there or use a tuner? I mean, it looks like to me you're doing two things and you only need to do one.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The problem with the end-feds is there's a lot of current on the coax coming back in. It's hard to keep that off of it. Back in the old days, we used to use random wires.
Yeah.
But back when we were kids, we didn't have enough sense to use a ground, so everything was hot.
Well, Martin, you kind of challenged me. I built this 3/8 vertical, and you told me to try a half wave, and so I've got a 3/8 vertical and a half wave out there for 40. A half wave is no more than an end-fed half wave. And it's got a balun at the end, and instead of it going out at a 45-degree angle or flat, it's just standing straight up. But I found that it was very difficult to set the resonant point without a counterpoise or a ground. And the best way I found to do it was, and I think it's 1/6 wavelength or something like that. You may know, Martin, but I think it was 1/6 wavelength back from the feed point. I just did a dirty balun on the coax, and that fixed everything. It used that short piece there for the counterpose. So a lot of people just get this end-fed and they don't worry about putting that 1/6 wavelength dirty balun or something here, and they just get lucky that the length of coax they got is working with it. But they can make it work much better, I think, if they would do that.
Yeah. Well, rather than taking a half wave and not working it against ground, what I'd like to do on something like a half wave vertical, instead of using a transformer, is just to use a L network and work it against ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can just tune it for whatever you want.
All right. We had to remove a user from a chat room. All right. Well, hey, I like antennas. Martin, I really like antennas, and nearly all my 58 years of hamming, I never really ran much power. Over the years, I had some homebrew amplifiers and stuff, but I got some pretty decent amps here in my old age, and so now my antennas have to be much better to run high power. I can't get by with the RG58 and the way I used to do it. It's got to be much better. I don't want to blow my amplifiers up, and So
Yeah,
I like resident antennas. I like to trim them and make them resident. Now, the double zip, I've got one of your 1500 watt tuners on it, and works great out there. And
yeah, if you try to feed 1500 watts into half wave, that gets pretty tough.
yeah.
Yeah. Alan, what do you think about feeding half wave antennas? I mean, in feeding half waves.
Well, I mean, I'm a low power operator generally. I've got 100 watts max, and when I use an end-fed half wave, it's usually when I'm operating portable. I'm operating 5 or 10 watts.
Okay.
So even with that, you can still get some pretty high voltages at the end.
Yeah.
It's so high. But
do you use a transformer, or do you use something like an L network or some kind of tuner?
It's well, I've the one I've been using is one from Par Electronics, and it's a little tuned network at the feed point. It doesn't really require a counterpoise because, but it works remarkably well. I haven't experimented with running an end-fed at 100 watts.
Yeah, no, I'm a low power guy too. Yeah, the Par is that's one of those parallel tuned circuit type of tuners, isn't it?
It is. It's an LC. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I like to use is just a L network, the capacitor at the antenna with inductor in series with it.
You know, that's what I did too, Martin, on the first, like on the vertical and stuff out there, I put a little tuner out there and found out what the inductance and capacitance needed to be, and I just mounted a fixed capacitor and wound a little fixed coil and stuck in here, and it'll handle a kilowatt fine, It's real easy, real easy to do.
That's great. That's a great way of doing it.
Let's talk about something I tried to give away the other day. I've got about a brand new 100-foot roll of 7/8 inch hardline, but guess what? It's 75 ohm. It's cable TV, So, but it's 75 ohm. Now, a lot of people use it. They say it's no problem. 75 ohm to a 50 ohm load.
1.5 to 1, that's darn near perfect.
It gives you an SWR of 1.5,
Yeah,
but also in my studies, depending on the length you cut that, it will actually match better. I think if you cut it a half wave and hook it to a 50 ohm load, isn't it going to pretty much reflect that half wave load back at the other end?
If you're going to operate a single band, if you cut it at an even quarter wavelength, so a half wavelength, a full wavelength, then the impedance at the far end is going to be matched it's going to be reflected or essentially represented at the near end, regardless of the impedance of the coax. And a 75 ohm is lower loss than 50 ohms. So if you're going to run a single band and you're worried about 75 ohms, cut it to a half wavelength or a full wavelength long. But in my mind, it's 1.5 to 1 SWR. If you're, that's close to perfect. So
it's not bad at all. So that's really some good cable. An astronaut, Doug Wheelock, was with us, and we were sitting here, and all of a sudden, I'm watching out the back window, and a tree falls over out there on my building, and it breaks the power line. It wasn't even wind blowing, nothing. It just a tree fell, 100-foot tree fell. Anyway, so it broke the cable. Okay, so cable company was here. And I asked the guys, I said, do you have any cable hardline or anything out there on your truck used that you can get rid of? They said, yeah, we got some out there for you. So I walked out with them, and they got this big 8-foot roll on the back of the truck, and he says, how much you need? 100 feet? And he starts pulling it off that reel, and he cuts me 100 feet off. Now, if the cable company's listening, they're probably going to fire this guy now, but I got 100 feet of 7/8 inch hardline, which I thought maybe somebody might want to use. I think it would be good. And like you said, if you want to do a single band, that would really be good.
There's one more question for Martin in the chat here. Chris W4NRG is asking, what's the next top new ham product from MFJ?
Well, we got some new amplifiers coming out using those super rugged LD MOS, both 600 watt and the 1200 watt version has got FCC certification. just got it 2 days ago.
That's
That's
great.
great.
Certification.
I've seen
Yeah.
some videos on those indestructible LD mosses where guys throw a crowbar on the output and they don't cook the transistors. It's
Yeah,
pretty-
and you know,
Yeah.
I was always worried about getting a solid state amp. That growing up with solid state, you know how easy it is damaged. But I saw the same videos, Alan, where the guy, he's cranking a kilowatt out of it, and he takes the screwdriver and shorts it out, or he opens it, and it doesn't hurt the LD moss. So, man, Martin, how do they do that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is these semiconductor guys.
man.
They're
mean-
doing it.
That is, it's just good. Now I might think different about. I've never had a real solid state amp. Martin, do you think I ought to get me
Yeah.
a solid state amp for my HF? What would you do? I've got.
Well, I will wait until we get this thing in production and take a look at it.
All
You know,
right.
we-
Well,
you
I've
know
got
that-
I've got an amp here with what is it? 3CX 800s. Is it CX
Oh, yeah.
800s?
Well, unless you want to spend the money, I would stay with that.
Yeah. Well, but I always like trying something different. It's got it's got it's got a pair of the 3CX 800s. And then I've got your AL 80B. It's got a 3500.
That's a good rugged amp. Yeah.
And that's a nice, beautiful tube and an amp, man. But
You know those 811 amplifiers that we have. You use the 4 811 and 3 811 tubes.
Mhm.
We're going to try to build a solid state version of that. In other words, a really low cost amp like that.
just replace the finals with some LD moss or something, or
Something like that.
Yeah.
Basically a low cost solid state amp.
well,
Yeah.
that would be cool to try that. Can you really tell the difference at the other end?
I don't think so. 5, 6, 700 watts is
Yeah.
as good as full legal limit. You just can't hardly tell much difference.
If you got a quadruple power to increase an S unit, so
Yeah.
Well, an S unit's not very wide on my radio. It's pretty narrow
Yeah.
there, But
You can't hardly hear it.
yeah. Well, Martin, I want to do some in a future show, and I've mentioned this to you. The U.S. Army did some experiments on using a tree for an antenna, and I've always been interested in that. And I think in a future show, maybe in the next few weeks, I want to work on that. And there's a lot of study that's been done on it, and they use here's a picture. They use they call it a HEMAC. Now, a HEMAC is patented. The HEMAC is a helical coil coupled air core toroidal coil. And that's how they couple to the tree with that toroidal coil there. So I'm going to build something up. I'm going to look at what I can find for specs. I'm going to build something up, and we're going to test it. Now, somebody might say, "Well, that looks like a slinky," and you can talk on a slinky. We'll do some comparisons. We'll make a contact with it off the tree, and we'll make a contact with it on the tree, and we also will do some measurements. But that's the way I want to do it. Another way, and there are people on YouTube that's tried this, and is to actually drive a nail in a tree. Here's a shunt-fed tree. This is, I don't know, 19-something, it was early 1900s. But the government's done a real study on this, and it's comparing it to other antennas. And this was in the jungle, where they tried trees as an antenna. So I'm real interested in trying that as a segment on the show one night. What are your thoughts about a tree for an antenna?
Well, I think that would be really, really interesting. That toroidal coupling thing seems kind of weird. I think most of the feel is inside the toroid. Not much of it comes out of it. It
Really?
seems like that shunt fed, yeah. Seems like the shunt fed would be good if you could put in more than one nail.
Yeah.
I mean, get some more current to flow in the tree.
I looked at yesterday a YouTube where a person was showing he made a contact with that, and what he did, he drove a ground rod in the ground and connected coax to it, and then he had about a 15-foot piece of wire that went up the tree and a nail at the top. Well, I'm thinking that's a 15-foot piece of wire as a vertical.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so we're going to have to do a comparison with it away from the tree and with it on the tree. And
well, I don't know. I don't know how you get around connecting to the nail without a wire.
Well, you know what he did. He ran 15 feet of wire up and then hit the nail. But my thought is that 15 feet of wire is a vertical antenna. So I'll stick. You know, if we do that, we'll stick a 15-foot piece of wire up and tune it. I guarantee you, you're gonna make contacts on it. You know.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And two with the ground, I don't know. The government probably put a whole lot more research into this than I'll be able to. So I need somebody like you that knows what we're doing to guide us through this tree antenna. Now, you know, if it turns out that this thing is a great antenna, you might not sell as many, vertical antennas.
But he'd be able to sell a lot of tree matching equipment.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
And the tree matching equipment, it costs equal to or more than an antenna, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you remember years ago, somebody sold a balun that was a magic balun that was a perfect match across all bands. And it was all epoxied and potted so that you couldn't see what was inside of it. And he had a patent pending sign on it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I tested it out, and it had a perfect one-to-one match across the band. But it didn't get out worth a darn. So we actually sent it out. I had a friend that had an X-ray machine, and they looked at it, and we chipped away at the potting material. Turned out it was a 50 ohm resistor.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that was in QST, wasn't that? Wasn't that photo printed?
Yeah, we got a hold of one at 73 and hacked into it too, and we also saw that it was 50 ohm, just a 50 ohm resistor.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I don't know, Alan. You got any trees up here, Alan? You want to try to make a contact with us using trees?
Yeah, the problem is I don't have any trees. I'm in suburbia here. I got a 1/4 acre lot. I'm one of my antennas in a tree in my neighbor's yard.
Okay, all right.
But so it's unfortunately I don't have a good tree to do that with.
Yeah,
and Tom, you've got a whole antenna farm around your house.
I do. I have so many wire antennas up, and you know what? The nice thing about wire antennas, you can't see them. You walk up and down my street, you don't see them out there. If I used a piece of white rope or something, you might see that, but you don't see the wires. I've got fan dipoles up, delta loops, extended double zips, 3/8 verticals, halfway verticals. I got all kinds of stuff up out there, man. I got hanging up out there. I've got a 6 meter loop hanging out there in the tree. I've got plenty of tree. In fact, I cut down.
Now, if you can figure out a way to infuse copper into the trees and get a copper tree going, then you might have something.
Well, my readings calls a tree a liquid or a fluid antenna. I guess there's been some articles written on it. Martin, are you familiar with that? Are there articles written on fluid antennas?
Seem like I have seen something like that, but that makes sense. I was going to say while you're putting a nail in a tree, why don't you put a nail on the side of your house and try to load your house up?
Well,
But
my
The
my
difference
house
I
is
read-
is flood.
side of my house is brick. That wouldn't work very good unless I use a concrete nail. But you
The
know,
article I read said you had to get the nail into the sap. Of
yeah,
the tree.
get it into the
Yeah,
sap
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
We're talking about
is the
flood now.
sap in a tree? Is that kind of right in the center, or is it throughout the tree?
It's right on the edge usually.
Oh, is
It's
it?
under the bark. Yeah.
Okay,
Goes
well that's
apart.
good. That's good because the last tree I cut down was 5 foot in diameter, and I wasn't sure I was going to have a nail big enough to go in that thing.
Yeah. I wonder which types of trees have the most conductive sap.
Well, I don't know, but you know that's I guess the basis behind this, that it's a liquid or a fluid antenna. The sap, it carries minerals, you know, from the ground. I'm sure it carries, you know, the calcium, salt, iron. You know how you get your vitamins. So I guess it carries it up the through the sap to the tree leaves, and so and it will conduct. In fact, a friend of mine did a little video where he actually drove a couple nails in, and he took a shortwave radio out there and put it on WWV, and he would touch the antenna to the nail and take it off, and we didn't hear any difference at all with that test he did. But we're going to try it. We're going to see what happens here.
Maybe you can get some clues from these guys that get serp out of these trees up in
Yeah.
Vermont or somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in fact, somebody just said, Jim just said maybe a maple, and the maple's the
Yeah.
one, maple gives off the, maple syrup or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But it's going to be an interesting experiment.
Yeah,
And
that sounds
we're
fun.
going to play with it. And hey, I'll tell you, you know, if I really want to cheat, I can probably put FT8 on there, and I can probably work anywhere in the world off a tree
Yeah.
with FT8.
Well, you know, if
you know?
you choose the right time of year and the season,
Yeah.
you can either catch it while the sap's rising or the sap's falling. So it's kind of a self-tuning tree.
Yeah. So, and you know, I'm going to run relatively low power. I don't think I'll do more than 100 watts on my tree because I've lost so many trees around here. I don't want to fry a tree. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see.
I was down by the river the other day, and there was one of the trees there that had been struck by lightning. There was not a single char mark on the tree, but you could tell that obviously the sap had boiled and just turned into steam and blew the whole tree out. So yeah, you don't want to put too much power into that tree.
Well, that's true.
I had a pine tree next to one of my previous houses. I got hit by lightning, and the top half of the tree that conducted the lightning to my house died. So it's
There you
completely
go.
evaporated.
There you go. Right there. It shows the tree is conductive. It proves it.
Hey Tom, while you were talking about the flood in a tree, why don't you take a water hose, fill it up with water, and put a little salt in it? Try to load that up.
Well,
Yeah, I've talked to a guy who used a saltwater antenna like that. There's a guy that up in Wisconsin or Michigan or something that was running that.
and I think that's what we were talking about. Basically, that's a fluid antenna, and I think they're classifying the tree as a fluid antenna because it does have some fluid.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I guess I could pour salt all around my tree. No, wait, that might kill my tree. I better not do that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So tonight we've talked about some really neat projects. We've talked about our balloons, and we've talked about our trees for antennas and so forth.
Yeah. Talked about
So,
ants.
hey, I'm really interested to hear about these new FCC RF exposure requirements. Do you how much time do you think, Alan? I mean,
Well, we're not going
have
to
you
go
had
into
time to
great
do it
details.
tonight?
Yeah, we're not going to go into huge detail, so we can, kind of introduce it tonight since the announcement just came out. But there's no urgency with this, but we can certainly introduce it and talk about it, so you know whether to worry about it or not.
Well, let's do that. Let's get into it because I just learned tonight from you that there's a new FCC requirement that everybody is going to have to do now. Is that right?
Yeah. So let me bring up.
Go right ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah. So let's pop up the announcement here, and this is something that it's an FCC rule change. It was a lengthy report and order, but I'm not going to go through and read all that. The gist of this is that the rules don't change for the existing RF exposure limit. So there's no change to the limits or the rules and things like that. But what the only change that there was is that it does require all transmitting services to perform an exposure study. Now, you don't have to submit anything. You don't have to, create any, official documents or things like that. It's just an exercise that you need to do. Because it used to be that let me pull up another little page here. If you kind of fell underneath this chart in terms of, okay, if I'm always operating 100 watts or less, below 15 meters, I was exempt from even having to do the study in the first place, to do the evaluation. And the only time you really had to worry about it is if your station was more than 50 or 75 watts on between, say, 12 meters and 70 centimeters. Then you had to kind of run the evaluation. Otherwise, you were exempt from doing the calculations at all. That's the thing that changed, is that you're not exempt anymore, and you do need to run the calculations. However, there's no urgency really at this point yet, because what it says is that with this change, after May 3rd, okay, you've actually got 2 years to actually run this evaluation on your station, as long as you don't make any changes to the way you've been operating, up till that point. If after May 3rd, in 2 weeks or so, you make a change to your station, you add an amplifier, you change an antenna configuration or something like that, then you need to run the evaluation, at the time you're making the change so that you're good to go. But all it means is that you're going to run through this process to ensure that you're not exceeding any exposure limits, and just keep the records in your files just in case. That's really all it comes down to. So this is the announcement that came out on the ARRL. You probably got an email. There is a lot of information on the RF safety page on the ARRL website. So there's a lot of information there. There's also an entire book available for download, RF Exposure and You, that was written by Ed Hare. And according to this paragraph here, the ARRL Safety Committee is working on creating more easy to use guidelines to help you do the evaluation. But at the end of the day, it's actually pretty simple. The RF exposure page for ARRL is right here. There's a couple of links. There's a more useful one is probably the worksheets in terms of actually working through and doing your evaluation. Again, you've got 2 years to do this unless you're making some changes in a couple of weeks. Okay. The worksheet looks like this. It's actually pretty simple. You got your call sign and things like this. And this is just something you could fill out, stick in a file folder somewhere. And the other thing to think about is people, well, oh, gee, I'm running 100 watts, or I'm running an amplifier. I've got to worry about it. But if you look at what goes into the calculation, you get the peak envelope power. That's one thing. Then you enter the duty factor, which is a function of the mode you're operating. Now, if you're operating digital modes and things like that, that's close to 100% duty cycle. If you're operating CW, they actually refer to that as just being 40%. If you're operating single sideband, that's 20% duty factor. But then you also factor in the controlled and uncontrolled operating time. What this means in a controlled environment, like if you're in a business or something like that, and you know who's around and who's going to be near the antennas, that's a different set of requirements. Most of us will fall into the uncontrolled station, where you've got neighbors walking up to property lines and things like that, where you don't know who's going to be near your antenna. And what you have to do is take a look at a given 30-minute operating period, a typical 30-minute operating period. What percentage of the time are you actually transmitting? Now, if you're contesting, you might be transmitting 50% of the time. If you're just a casual rag chewer, you might be transmitting 10% of the time out of that 30 minutes. So if you take your peak envelope power, you multiply it by the duty factor for the mode you're operating, multiply it by the percentage of time you're actually operating, the average power actually can be quite low, and oftentimes is low enough that you're going to have no problem with the exposure. When it comes to looking at the exposure, this is actually that book you can go download. Chapter 5 in that book is also available to download. It goes into great detail of how all the evaluations are done, but a lot of that is simplified by a couple of other folks that are out there. This one here, hamradioschool.com, has got a really nice page here on evaluating your station. That's kind of where this table is. It talks about that if you are under this table, you don't have to do an evaluation, but that's not true anymore. That's what's changing. But then they also have a link to a spreadsheet that they show down here. Actually, what I'll do is let me share that spreadsheet with you, because I'll show you how simple it is to actually go see that. Let me find that spreadsheet. Here it is. So it's really as simple as this. You put in your transmit power. Here I put in 100 watts. Then feed line length, then the loss of your feed line so that you can calculate out how much power is actually getting to your antenna. You put in your mode here. You can drop down your various modes. You put in the amount of time you're actually transmitting. In my case, it might be something like 0.2% of the time I'm transmitting. Say I'm at 1405. And I put in my antenna gain and things like that. You can see my average power went from 100 watts down to 7.38 watts in terms of average exposure. And then it tells you right down here whether you're in compliance or not. So you basically just use the spreadsheet on every band and mode that you're going to operate on. You take 10 minutes to do that. You print out the sheets, put them in a file, done. That's all you got to do.
So Alan, here the question is this: this is a new rule, and this is not voluntary. You must do this. You don't have to send it in, but I guess if they ever come knocking on your door, you better have it, right?
That's really what it comes down to. And the chances of someone knocking on your door, unless you got a neighbor complaining that and is going to get ugly with the FCC with you because of interference or whatever, they may come by and say, "Well, gee, have you done the right things?" And the right things mean following the rules, and one of those is doing this calculation. So that's what you've got to do. And like I said, it's a pretty simple thing. You got 2 years to go ahead and do it unless you're making any changes. And there's also there's a couple of online calculators that you can go ahead and use, but I actually like that the spreadsheet that is offered by this ham radio school, because it takes into account, like I showed you, the percentage time that you're actually transmitting during a given, say, 30-minute interval. And that's going to mean that the vast majority of us, even if you're running 1500 watts, are likely not going to have to make any changes or do anything or move any antennas or change your operating practices. Based on that. But it's just a matter of running through the exercise just to be sure that you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. So it's a relatively minor change. It's going to affect a very, very small percentage of hams, I think, ultimately. But it just means it's something that you've got to do. And spreadsheets like this just make it very easy to go ahead and do that thing. But again, according to the rules at this point, it's just something that it just changes the fact that whether or not that we're not going to just be automatically excluded based on operating some power level, that you've got to run the exposure calculation. And the spreadsheet just makes it very simple. And then the online web pages make it very simple as well. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll see something from the ARRL with some additional guidelines that make it easy as well. But that's really what the rule change comes down to.
Wow. Martin, here's a new rule. Here's a new rule we got to do, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got to do it. Martin, do you remember?
You're right.
The rules have changed a little over the years. Do you remember when incentive licensing came out? You remember that?
I do. Yeah.
We all had our general license, and the general license had everything.
Yeah.
And then they came out and said, we're going to do incentive licenses. We're going to create this advanced, and he's going to get half of what you had, and then your extra's going to get the other half. And we all had to step up and upgrade to keep what we had back then. I guess that was about 1970s, probably, that incentive licensing came around. And since then, I guess some of the licenses are already gone now, right? They're not issuing Are they doing advanced now?
No, they're not issuing novices. They're not issuing advanced. It's just a technician, general, and extra.
Yeah.
If you had those, you still keep them, but they're not issuing.
Yeah, you still keep them and you still use them. Yeah. Hey, just real quick, let me make this announcement real quick here. Guys, many of you worked us and other KA6LMS special event stations last year, or this last month. The show's gone off the air, but they had this special. If you worked them and you're worrying about your certificate, you can go to their website at gsbarc.org/LMS, or just do a Google search and it'll take you here. But this tells you how to get your certificate right here. And it's a nice printable certificate. You just click here and it'll print your certificate. They've got you in the log and everything. So that's how you will get your certificate there. All right. Okay. Hey, if you're listening out there on International Shortwave, this program is about ham radio, and you can see we cover a lot of different aspects of technology and electronics and different things, and wireless and RF and all those kind of things. So it's about ham radio, amateur radio, and we.
Hey, Tom,
Yeah.
there's a question. I posted 5 of the links in the chat,
Okay.
In the YouTube chat. Maybe at some point you can copy those links and put them in the video description for YouTube. Charlie was asking for that.
I'm trying to think in the video description. We could put them. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
'cause
could put them
there's a
under the
underneath the
video,
video.
under the video in comments.
Well, you can put them in the comments there, but also when you post a video, you can actually put a description of the video as part of YouTube. You can post them in there as well.
All right, we'll see what we can do. I might need training on that.
Tom, it's been a great show. I'm going to have to pull out tonight.
All right.
I had fun, and I enjoy seeing everybody again. And y'all have a good evening.
All right. Well, Martin, we want you to be a regular on the show, so take your Geritol. I take mine. You know, I try to take double doses of it. Take your Geritol, get to feeling good, man, and on Tuesday nights, man, join us, okay?
Okay, I'll do my best, and
all right.
I'm going to go take a swig of that Geritol now.
That's right, man. Geritol is 12% alcohol. I just want you guys to know that. That would make
Only 12?
That would make
I
it
got
24
the extra
proof.
strength.
You got what?
Okay.
What was that?
If the regular strength is only 12, then I'm only going to do the extra strength.
Well, I usually do a double shot of it. It helps. You know, hey, the double shot of it actually helps me, man. It gives me energy, man. It makes me feel young again. You know. All right. Thank you, Martin. See you later, man.
We'll see y'all. Bye.
All right. All right, guys. Well, have we had fun tonight? Man, we've had some fun, I guess.
Hey, Tom, I've got a question.
Yeah,
for
go
Alan.
ahead.
I have a question for Alan.
Yeah, go ahead.
My typical transmit power on Whisper is 20 milliwatts, but it's on quite a bit. Do I have to be concerned?
I mean, you could run the calculation with 20 milliwatts, but I could, even if it's 100% duty cycle and you got the antenna wrapped around your head, you're probably still okay.
Probably are. Well,
it's not even enough power to light an LED.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, like I said, it's all concentrated in a very narrow band. In fact, I had a conversation with someone the other day. I was working somebody on this new rig I just built. This is a little QCX Plus, 5 watt. Actually, it's about a 3 watt CW transceiver, and working some guys on that. Like how can you work across the country with 3 watts and the conditions being what they are? It all comes down to signal to noise ratio, right? So on phone occupying 2.8 kilohertz of bandwidth, the equivalent SWR or SNR or even better SNR operating CW than I do operating 100 watts in phone. So it works.
Now, I'll tell you, I was hearing Australia on Whisper during the middle of the day and the evening. And during the middle of the night, we picked up some people on Australia on 10 meters. So the band's starting to pick up now.
All right.
That's cool. Alan, I've got a question for you. This is James.
Yeah.
So with these new rules to do a station evaluation, let's say if you were going calculations for that, or does that fall under the exempt?
Well, it's a good question, and there is a link on the RF exposure page saying RF safety and field day, and I'm not sure whether it's something that's going to be under an exemption or not. I don't think that's been made clear yet, or at least it's not clear to me. But it is a good question, and usually the calculations are made for the antenna. So if you get that up a pole or something like that, you're probably okay. You still don't want people touching the ends of the RF exposure. But it's a good question that I don't have a clear answer for on you yet, James. But again, I think it's just something we've got to, we should see some more information come out in the next couple of weeks.
Between Key West and the Gulf of Mexico that are a marine sanctuary as a place to go operate from. Take some kids down there.
That'd be fun.
about making our tree antenna successful, and that is using a 9-foot aluminum,
That'll get you on 10 meters anyway.
Yeah, it probably would. Hey, he's the chairman of the Huntsville Hamfest. I want a country, maybe even the world, if you want to stretch it. It's going to be nice, man. I can't wait to get there. And we hope astronaut don't think he's coming. I mean, I'll know maybe 1 or 2 days before that. That's usually the notice I can get from him. He's got 2 years now, so we need a good Hamfest. And James, you say you're not going to make it this year to Huntsville, or you are?
Oh,
You
we're
are. You will. You will.
We're definitely going to be
Yeah.
there. The girls have got a really, really nice solar generator and solar panel.
So what's a solar generator consist of? A solar panel and what else? Maybe a
So
control
what
box?
they're giving away is what they call their Solaris 600, the muscle of it, I guess, and then it's got a Buddy Pole Power Mini charge controller, and it's put into to be able to run your gear and a way to plug it, and you can charge it with solar power. And they've got one more of the version 1 that they have left, and they are donating that to the prize bin at Huntsville. We have operated with a 30 amp battery. This has a 60 amp. We've operated field day, or when we were down in the dry Tortugas a couple years ago, 30 amp battery, 100 contacts in 1915 hours of transmitting like that and get on the air.
I'm definitely going to buy prize tickets for that at the Huntsville Hamfest.
Yeah.
Yeah, come by the booth. And Bill, I'd love to talk to you at Huntsville and on the phone about this balloon stuff you do.
Oh, sure. I'll be giving a talk on balloon launches at the Hamfest and doing a launch there. So I look forward to Hamfest. Is that it's a 30-minute drive for me, and I don't have to get a hotel.
That works, yeah. It's a 12-hour drive for us from Florida.
That's good. Well, maybe the show can get some. Maybe the show can get some.
The drive would be for me. I don't know. It'd be a little bit of a drive.
The vouchers aren't worth anything, but we can get you some of them probably. Yeah. So, hopefully you'll get a lot of good exposure there.
Yeah, we'll have a corner booth right next to Gigaparts and facing.
It's going to be one of the first major Hamfests since the whole pandemic thing started, so that's going to be nice.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, since it is coming back, I'm just wondering, I thought there's 2 things can happen. One would be a lot of people are still afraid to get out, and they're not going to get out and go anywhere. They're going to be worried. The other thing is, a lot of people now have the shots, and the COVID's starting to go down. Another thing is, the Huntsville, it may be bigger than ever this year. I don't know which way it's going to go.
I think you've got all that pent up demand. I mean, I know I'm seriously considering getting a table or 2 to get rid of my stuff. I've got a whole room upstairs that's full of stuff that needs to be sold at a Hamfest now.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a pretty good, well-attended show. I think a lot of people are going to have their COVID vaccines by that point. Those who want and can get it, it should be available. I can tell you from personal experience that the COVID vaccine does work. I don't recommend the method I found out about that, but it works great.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that tonight, but one of our close people here and your significant other came down this week with COVID.
Yeah, the good news is Bev, WB4ELK, is going to be released from the hospital tomorrow.
Oh, that's great, man. Great news.
Excellent recovery. But she was very ill a few days ago when we took her to the hospital. So
it's amazing. It's amazing how quick it can hit and be so severe.
It was very severe, but she's made a remarkable recovery, and she's back to her energetic self again.
Well, that's great, and hey, I'm glad you had your shot. I'm sure that probably has protected you. I think
very definitely.
That's good evidence that it does work. Oh man, we've got people in the chat room talking about the COVID. It's actually hitting other families here, other hams in the chat room here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's pretty devastating if you don't have your shot and you come down with it. It can be very devastating.
Yeah.
So it's something I would highly encourage getting the vaccine, because the side effect was really pretty minimal. In my case, the day after my second shot, I didn't want to get out of bed for a day, and just some mild symptoms of fevers and chills. But then the next day, I was still tired, but I was fine. So it certainly beats the alternative of being down and out and horribly sick for weeks on end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just had a sore arm from mine.
I didn't even get that. You know, I mean, it was one of the easiest shots I've ever got, man. It was good.
Yeah, you know, Michelle and I both got it on the same day with the single shot vaccine, and we both got knocked down kind of hard by it for a couple of days.
Was that the J&J?
Yeah,
shot?
J&J. And I had already had COVID last year. It was mild last year, but man, I tell you, when the antibodies kicked in from that vaccination, it was rough.
Yeah. Wow.
And quick, as Michelle said. It was like within a couple hours, and then or half a day, and then all of a sudden, when it quit hurting, it was almost like you threw a switch off.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I guess we're still learning about all this and what the shots will do, what they won't do. I think they are effective. I guess in just a little time will tell. So I think in Huntsville, what I'm hearing is that, especially from the ham group, is its own, and it's going to be bigger and better than ever. They're going to expand it to give more people, more room, to give you a little bit, space between you and so forth. Not sure, what any restrictions that the government might put on, large events like that. But it sounds like things are easing up, and it's probably going to happen. And I think it's going to be great. And man, I can't wait. In fact, we go down a couple days early, and we'll stay a day later down in Huntsville. We love that Ham Fest so much.
Yeah. Now, Mark Brown is in the chat room. He's the Ham Fest chairman this year for BCD. And he says the Connected Hotel sold out in record time this year.
Oh, yeah.
And so they think the positives are going to outweigh the negatives, and Huntsville's going to be just fantastic.
Yeah, we've got an extra hotel room that somebody's already begging us to give up. We're not sure how many of our family are going to be able to make it.
Well, hey, if you don't get rid of it, and we have an astronaut that joins us, we might need another room, or he's going to have to find one somewhere else. And
all right, so the astronaut's going to have to make a commitment to actually get on the air.
Yeah.
Every time he's over Florida, so we can work him. Because the one time that the space station was worked out of my vehicle, I let the guy sitting next to me. Let the guy sitting next to me make the contact.
Yeah.
And that was a couple years ago with that lady who was up there making contacts.
I tell you, when Doug was up, he was on all the time, man. He worked some contacts. He was like Richard Garriott. Richard Garriott went up and made thousands of contacts, but Doug did too. And I was talking to Doug so much. The interesting thing about it, I listened for the space station for a year or two, tried to work it. I never worked it. And then when Doug got up here, I talked to him 30 times in 1 month. And I talked to him 3 times driving home in my truck. And I said, after that, I said, I don't want to work it anymore. And of course, he came down in. I said, I don't want to work it anymore. Let somebody else do it. But it's amazing how you can go from you can't work it for a year to you work it 3 times a day almost.
Did you ever hear the recording of the first transmission when Owen Garriott, W5LFL, made his first transmission ham radio transmission.
Yeah. In fact, I listened to that again this past year. I've met and know Owen and Richard, and
I knew
copied. I had back then we had cable, and I had a TV back in the ham shack, and they had the NASA channel, and they had the actual map, and you could see the shuttle where it was moving. It was going from Texas to, it was heading toward New York. And I heard him. I hooked my 2-meter stuff up, and I heard him. I had a vertical. I think it was a Ringo Ranger up there. I heard him saying, he's on the what was it, the space shuttle or whatever he was on. I forget now, but yeah.
I was on the shuttle.
Yeah, he was on a shuttle, and he made a transmission or two, and I heard him. I never could talk to him, but I heard him, and when he got right above me, I lost him. Of course, the vertical. It doesn't pick up straight above. And then as he got to New York, I started hearing him again, and then he went out, he went past the horizon. So I heard him actually make the very first ham radio calls. I guess you might call that space. He probably wasn't real high then. He may have been close to orbit. I don't know.
Oh, he was in orbit.
Yeah.
Now, Owen used to he lived in Huntsville, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So he would come to our Space Society meetings and things. So we really got to know Owen quite well. But I heard a recording from the first transmission over Portland, Oregon, and you could hear a beautiful W5 LFL listening now, and then it was just total. Picture the worst pileup you've ever heard on 20 meters.
Yeah.
And that's how it was on 2-meter FM. It was just bedlam, complete bedlam. And you couldn't even hear Owen after that because everybody was
Owen was a cool guy. I've got a video I did with Owen, and I tried to make a joke with him. I had him and Richard together, and I said, Owen, I hear on the space station they got this machine that purifies your urine, and you drink it. And I said, now, how do you tell when that thing's not working right? I said, does it taste bad? And boy, he gave me 15 scientific reasons on exactly how they test it. He never caught that I was trying to kind of make a joke about it,
Hey, you're at your 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I am. Hey, everybody out there, you've been listening to Amateur Radio Roundtable. This is a show about ham radio. We're glad to have you. Send us an email, tom@w5kub.com. We'd love to have you. And join us on Tuesday nights on YouTube/W5KUB. We'd love to have you watch the show instead of just listen to it out there. And for anybody left in the chat room, there's 140, 150 people, I guess, or let's see, maybe not that many, 100 and something. Out there in the chat room, if you will, hit that subscribe button. If you hadn't hit the subscribe button, if you came in late, we need you to hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out on our rankings. So please hit the subscribe button there. Hit the like button if you like the show tonight. And we'll see you guys next week. And we have fulfilled our 2 hours slot, that we have a 2-hour audio show now, which will go on WBCQ shortwave station out of Monticello, Maine. And you can hear this show on Thursdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time if you tune in to 7490. All right, well, guys, that's it for tonight.
All right, I'm going to jump out. I got to get up early for work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody.
We'll see you later, man. Thanks, and thanks for the update on that. That's interesting about the RF exposure.
Yep. Okay.
All right, man.
Take care now.
Hey, Alan, just real quick.
Yeah.
Next week, maybe you're going to talk about what are you going to talk about? Something about Mars and the RF path, or something?
I thought with all the hype about the Ingenuity copter going, I thought it might be interesting to talk about some of the RF technologies for communicating, to other planets and things like that. In terms of things like the Deep Space Network, what bands are used, what modes are used.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Power levels, things like that. But I may call in an expert that does satellite antenna work
Okay.
to kind of talk about that. So it's still a pending thing, because I'm not sure I can line
Okay.
them up.
All right. Well, that will be good if you can do it. We're looking forward to it. Thank
All right.
you, and we'll see you later. See you
All right,
next
take
week.
care.
All right. All right. So, Bill, let me close the show here. And good night, everybody out there